My name is Russell Steele, and this is a presentation of an application domain accounting project for Software Engineering 4713 at Kennesaw State University, which we have named OnAccount. OnAccount is a fully functional platform that enhances the accounting process. Our software provides a secure, user-friendly, and accessible financial management solution. With this system, users can manage their financial accounts whenever necessary while maintaining a high level of security. OnAccount delivers an intuitive interface that simplifies complex accounting tasks, aimed at the reduction of costly errors with data entry and record keeping. OnAccount conforms to general accounting principles as a double-entry, accrual-based accounting system. In this video series, we will illustrate our implementation of a predefined set of software requirements that were prepared by Dr. Jerry Mamo. We hope that our implementation of OnAccount helps you get a full sense of the project's functionalities and the breadth of work that was required to complete it. The application was developed using a combination of .NET, MySQL, CSS, and Vanilla.js. The backend is primarily written in C#, accounting for 60% of the code base, with HTML 32%, CSS 7%. The application is currently running on Ubuntu Linux web server utilizing Apache 2. Approximately 3 weeks were spent learning accounting basics. This was followed by 9 weeks to complete 4.5 Scrum sprints. In hindsight, we estimate approximately 518 hours were spent writing the 23,873 lines of code currently contributed to this project. Of course, your mileage may vary, as we opted for production speed over concise algorithms in many cases. Moving right along to Sprint 1. This sprint focuses on two foundational aspects of the application: the user interface and authentication mechanisms. This sprint ensures that users can securely log in and manage their accounts in preparation for subsequent sprints that will introduce more complex functionality. The three supported types of user accounts are administrators, managers, and accountants. Though account creation can be initiated internally by an administrator, users have the ability to create pending accounts externally from the login page. For demonstration, I'll create a user account for a manager. You may have noticed that the username is auto-generated from the first and last name as I type. This feature ensures that the username requirements are met without overburdening the user. The requirements are that the username start with an uppercase first initial, followed by an uppercase last name initial, followed by the rest of the last name, followed by 2 digits of the current month, followed by 2 digits of the current year. You can note that these fields do have validation that are built into them. It's going to make sure that the passwords match, that they meet the minimum criteria. Additionally, you'll notice that as I typed in the phone number, you also get some auto formatting that takes place as you type. Also be aware that the system will lock the user out if there are 3 consecutive failed login attempts. With all the information complete, we can go ahead and submit the form. We get a message saying the registration is complete. We must check our email. Alright, if I go into my junk mail here, you see that I do have an email for registration. And if I click this, it's going to actually hit an endpoint. It's going to send in this string. The string is limited, so it has a time frame that will expire if it hasn't been used. Click on that. As you can see here, we got a message that says that the email was confirmed, and we have a matching string that's up here in the header. This message here does inform us that the system administrator does have to assign the role before we can log in. If we try to log in, it should give us an error message. Alright, so the message says that we're locked out. Either the account's not fully set up or has been suspended. Next step in the process is that the manager actually has to approve the account, and it lets us know that our current role is an administrator. This is different than the accountant's login page. The administration home has an option for manage users, manage roles, and view logs. If we go to manage users, we can see the account that was just created does not have a role. This is the primary reason that the user can't log in. In order for the user to be able to log in, the administrator has to click Details, select Unlock Account. Once that's been selected, they can go to the bottom, select a role. I'm going to make them a manager. Before we leave this page, I do want to call your attention to a couple things. We have an account suspension date and reinstatement date. There's a service that runs in the background as a singleton.net service. This simply just allows the administrator to come in and temporarily suspend an account for a period. Say if an employee is out on leave or has been suspended. There's also last password change date. The underlying password service ensures that accounts with expired passwords are locked out. Users that need to change their password are notified via their email address 2 weeks in advance. When they log in during the 2-week window, they are taken immediately to the page that allows them to update their password. If they fail to update their password, their manager is automatically notified via email. Another feature of the system is that there is an immediate account lockout button. Finally, we've conveniently placed an email button that allows administrators to contact the user directly. You may have noticed that there's no way to delete a user account. The accounting system and security logs retain information linked to the user for auditing purposes. Now that we've looked at the account details, let's go ahead and unlock the account and log in as the user. As you can see, the user now has a role of manager. And here we go. We're in. This is a current role as manager. It's Russell Steele at hotmail.com, and we have the accountant's login page. You'll notice that it goes directly to the appropriate page based on the role. That's one of the benefits of having a role-based system. Now that we're logged in, you'll notice that there is no profile picture up here on the icon. So if we click on that, we can go to the profile image area and upload an image. I'm going to go ahead and select the picture here. Save the picture. Now we can see that our profile picture has been updated and we now have an icon at the top. We also have an option to change the email address and enter a new password for the account. Lastly, we should take a look at the log feature. In order to do so, we're going to need to log back in as an administrator. Under View Logs, you can see here that we have change date, user ID, what the data was changed from, and what it's changed to. Logins just show logins. Right here you can see where we changed the user's role to a manager.
Hello, I am Manuel Jackson from Team on Account, and today we will be talking about the Chart of Account module. So I'm logged in as an administrator. If I click on this action menu right here, click on this module, Chart of Account, this will take me to the Chart of Account module. This module lists all active accounts. Each account has an account number, account name, type, term, creation date, and current balance. It also shows the status. Right now this list is all active accounts. Using the search tool, you can search by account number, name, or the previous categories that I mentioned before. So let's say if we wanted to find the account name called cash, we can type in cash. Since the account name is called cash, it will show up. we can also type in the account number cash is associated with. So we can type in 101 and it will show up cash. We can also search by the status. Right now, this list will show all active accounts. So if I just type in active, it will already just show the list. We can also view the detail of the account. Since I am an administrator, only administrators can add, edit, or deactivate accounts. So when editing an account, I can edit the description, the type of account, the term of account, what statement type the account is associated with, the normal side of the account. I can sort the priority of account and the status of account. However, if the account has a balance more than 0, it cannot be deactivated. Since I'm logged in as an administrator, I can also add a new account. So I can put a new account number, let's say 203, account name, expense, and a description of it. Once an account is added, the account number, name, and the creation date can no longer be changed. Another functionality for the chart account module is when clicking on the account number, such as cash 101, it will take us to the ledger of the account. As you can see in the account details, you can see the journal ID, the debit, the transaction date, description, who is it created by, the status, and the current balance of the account, all the way to the most current one. Another feature is all accounts have a account event log. So let's click on this. As you can see from the top, it says account name cash. You can see the change date, the user ID, and what has been changed from and to in the event log. Some of the helpful tools used for accounting are a calendar, which we provided under the action menu under tools. This calendar will show the current day, and you can also view the future months or the previous months. The help document will show the permissions and access that each user will have managing, edit, or modifying roles as an administrator.
After logging in as a manager or accountant, you are once again taken to the accounting home. From here, let's say you are wanting to make a journal entry. To do so, you are able to navigate to the journal entry page either via the navigation button located under the dashboard, which is seen right here, or the journal entry button located in the action menu under the accounting section, which is seen right here. After navigating to the journal entry, you are presented with a blank journal details panel. Here, automatically filled is the journal ID, your username, and today's date. A tad bit lower is a field where you can select one or more documents pertaining to this journal entry, where you upload them in the form of a file, be it PDF, JPEG, PNG, or other file type. We can here, for instance, select 2 files and click open. If it's just one file, it will show just the name of the one file you selected, or it'll show 2, 3, 4, 5 if you select more files. For the meats of the journal details panel, visible are fields for the details of the transaction. As per accounting standards, fields for debit and credit exist, with the first 2 mandatory rows already existing for each select accounts, as well as the amounts you'd like to debit or credit. Over to the right, you have the option to add or remove rows as needed for additional debit or credit transactions and the accounts pertaining to them. Each field for account selection provides a drop-down of all active accounts and their respective account number. You may add as many lines as you need to the journal entry. Keep in mind that error handling is in place for the case that the debit and credit amounts are unbalanced from each other, ensuring that improper journal entries are not submitted. So for instance, let's select equipment, cash, 20, 10, and let's just remove this field. And when I click submit, it says total debits must be equal to the total credits. On the bottom, fields exist for the manager or accountant to add transaction description, journal note, and select if this is an adjusting entry or not. Finally, submit, reset, and back buttons perform the actions you normally expect. So reset resets the journal details panel, and submit, of course, submits the journal entry, and back just takes you back to the accounting home. For the approval section, as a manager, it is their job to approve or deny pending transactions created by accountants. When in the accounting home, managers are able to see if there are pending transactions in the form of an alert, and if so, how many. If a manager chooses to deny a journal entry, they are prompted with a modal, which allows said person to give a comment as to why said transaction is being denied. So here is the alert, and then if we switch over to the general journal, and then head over to a pending, or here we can, by status, pending. Here we can actually sort. And then we can click deny as manager. And then for reason of denial, reason, and then you just click confirm denial to actually deny this journal entry. Any user is able to, as needed, navigate to chart of accounts, click on an account number or name, and see journal IDs pertaining to said account. From there, you are able to click on a journal ID in order to see the specific details of all accounts affected by said transaction. If needed, you are able to click on any of the rows to be taken to a Filter General Journal page displaying that specific transaction. If you'd like to see all transactions again, you can just click on the Reset Filter button. The various pages pertaining to chart of accounts, account details, and general journal are all very tightly coupled so that navigation is a breeze when it comes to displaying correlating information as needed.
Sprint 4 focuses on the adjusting journal entries and financial reports. Adjusting entries are necessary to close out each calendar month and the annual accounting period. The closing journal entry is closely aligned with the changing of the most recent closing date, which is handled by the administrator. For this reason, the administrator is able to create the closing entry and change the closing date as a part of a single function of the system. The primary objective of the sprint is to enable the generation of financial reports and the management of adjusting journal entries. This includes implementing approval workflows, error handling, and detailed event logging. The accounting homepage has 4 main reports built into the system. They are listed on the accounting page as the income statement, balance sheet, trial balance, and owner's equity. These options are also available to all users of the system through the action menu. The first of these statements is the income statement. It reflects the revenue and expenses of the business. The difference between these is the net profit for the company. You may have noticed that there is a default as of date at the top of the report. This date represents the ending date for the report. The beginning date of this report corresponds to the last closing date or the installation date, whichever is most recent. The period between the last closing date and the current date comprehends all accounting information for the current accounting year. Alternative date ranges can be selected if the user wants to just look at a specific time period, like a week or a month. Lastly, all reports have a print option. Modern systems will allow the user to print a PDF, which is optimal for emailing saved reports. The balance sheet functionality is similar to the income statement, with options for selecting a date range other than the accounting year to date. By default, the balance sheet comprehends all information going back to the installation of the application. The retained earnings for the first year is calculated as a dynamic value, which is revenue less expenses less dividends for the current accounting period. During the first year, the retained earnings account will display with a zero balance. When the closing entry is made for any calendar year, the revenue less expenses less dividends amount will be recorded as the retained earnings balance. Moving forward into the second year and every year thereafter, the amount that shows here will be calculated as the current year's revenue less expenses less dividends plus the retained earnings balance left over from the previous years. One other difference here is that the equities accounts are permitted to show a $0 balance. This allows the owner to be sure that these accounts are being tracked. The retained earnings account. On the owner's equity report, the earnings total line shows the same information as the balance sheet displays for retained earnings. The main difference is that the report gives a breakdown for the beginning earnings and the current accounting year's net income. If the owner has taken draws from the company, they will be included here as dividends. The ending retained earnings are simply the earnings total less the dividends total. In an accrual-based accounting system, it is necessary to make adjusting journal entries at the end of the month. Adjusting entries can be made in the same way that journal entries are made through the Journal Entry view. There is a checkbox at the bottom of the entry page that allows entries to be tracked separately from non-adjusting journals when running a trial balance. Before we can run a current trial balance, it is necessary to close all pending journal entries up to the date of the report. In the on-account system, if we attempt to run the trial balance for the same time frame in which we just created the entry, we will be taken to a summary, general journal view that shows the pending journal entries with a notification error. You can see that the system message was pulled from an error messages table and displayed at the top. For security reasons, the administrator cannot accept or deny transactions. To accept the adjusting entry, the system requires me to log in as manager. The trial balance helps to make sure that all of the account credits and debits have been entered correctly. If they have not, the debit and credit totals on the trial balance will be unequal. You will notice that the trial balance has an option to show it with and without adjusting entries. In this case, you'll notice that when we include the adjusting entries, the trial does balance. It's an important practice to check the numbers both before and after making a major adjustment to the system. So let's go ahead and take a few minutes and do that now. At the conclusion of the accounting year, it is necessary to move the year's profits from the income statement to the balance sheet. In most accounting systems, this is a manual process. However, in the on-account system, we have a feature that allows the closing entry to be made at the same time as a new system's closing date is set. This must be done by an administrator and approved by a manager. To make an automated closing entry, the administrator must click on the Closing Annual Accounting Period button. Then the new closing date can be entered and the Confirm button clicked. To complete the process, the manager will need to accept the journal entry. As previously stated, we must make sure all the numbers are the way they should be before we move on. Now that the closing entry has been made and accepted by the manager, we can see the following. The income statement has a new starting date and no entries for the new accounting period. The balance sheet still has all of the assets and liabilities present from before. These amounts are cumulative from the beginning of the accounting system's use, not just the current period. We can also see that the retained earnings appear at the same time. The owner's equity is different from before, in that it now has the starting retaining earnings left over from the prior year, with no retained earnings being calculated for the current accounting year. In conclusion, the updates from Sprint 4 have enhanced the application's financial reporting and adjusting entry management capabilities by providing a module for generating financial reports and managing the adjusting journal entries.
Hello, this is Zachary Powell. Here's the landing page for every user upon accessing the OnAccount website. At the top, it displays currently pending transactions to alert any managers who missed emails that the system sends out that transactions still need to be reviewed to be approved or rejected. Secondly, we display the financial ratios such as the current ratio, return on assets, return on equity, net profit margin, asset turnover, and quick ratio. These ratios are displayed in 3 separate colors. Green stands for good, yellow is worrisome, and red should be viewed as an issue that needs to be investigated. These ratios and how their colors should be interpreted are based on the type of company that is using OnAccount. We have a few charts that display information to the user. The bar chart displays the current fiscal year of the income and expenses for a company, broken down on a month-to-month basis. The donut charts display breakdowns of the income and expenses that are represented on the bar chart for the entire year to date. The donut chart allows the user to see which expense or revenue account is making up the majority of the whole expense or revenue for the entire year. All charts are dynamic, allowing you to understand how each account's balance makes up the portion of their whole chart by removing specific accounts from the charts to view them more accurately, such as removing the salaries expense to see how the other expenses compare to each other. These ratios and charts allow for a company that is using OnAccount to understand their financial standing in a quick manner. Further down, we have a menu selection of important parts of the OnAccount system, with journal entries and viewing the chart of accounts. It also directs to the financial statements such as the income statement, balance sheet, trial balance, and the owner's equity. These allow quick access without having to dig through sub-menus to find what you need. All the parts of the design for the landing page are about getting the user as much information as easily as possible with as little visual clutter as possible, allowing the user to quickly find what they need.